How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Guess who's back in England and back on the YouTube thing? It's me! Refreshed? Maybe? Energized? Definitely. So, let's get into some wood turning, shall we? And today on the channel we are attacking that epoxy project that I set up before I left for Spain. So it's had plenty of time to cure in the pressure pot at 80 psi. It was in there for well over 2 weeks. So everything should be stable and ready to rock and roll. So this is going to be almost entirely with the carbide cutter. We are spinning at 1400 RPM. And you might notice that we are very, very out of balance. That's because I could not get this thing centered no matter what I tried. So we had to settle for as close to center as I could get it. Now, that may cause us problems on the other side, because if you remember, this has got an epoxy rim with all sorts of stuff in it. And that rim needs to be centered, really, as much as possible. Well, let's see how we get on, shall we? So you might ask, is epoxy any better to cut if you leave it 2 weeks to cure? And I have to say, I think it probably is. I think it's more stable. Just an observation. It should cure in 48 hours, but yeah. So we're almost into round, just got the top edge to do. Oh, thanks to everybody that watched my holiday videos, by the way. I know they weren't wood turning related, but some of you had a bit of fun at least, so thanks very much for watching those. It was good fun making them, and I had a really good time out there, so yeah, thanks for following along. Alrighty, so we're just chasing that last little shiny spot, and as ever I want to do a May West curve on this bowl because it's really nice, and why not, eh? It's my favourite shape. I'm getting a little bit of bounce there with the carbide cutter, and I think that's just down to the tool rest and its inherent design issues. Alright, we're nearly there, look. Some beautiful grain in this. This is Spalted oak, by the way. It's got some kind of ribbon pattern going on in the oak, which my dad seems to think is something pretty special, and I've never seen it before, and I'm inclined to agree. It does look pretty spectacular. Epoxy going everywhere. Alright, so you can see the shape I'm going for starting to develop. Just time to round off that bottom edge a bit more, give it a bit more of a behind. Just want to emphasize that curve just a little bit more. There we go. We're getting down to a nice curvy shape. Wasn't quite happy with how that rim was sticking out, so it's a little bit more work on that. And I just wanted to bring the top edge down to flat so I could work out exactly where my rim was going to start. Now I've got it as round as I can, and obviously you can see there's epoxy still on one side, and I didn't dare take it down anymore because I was going to end up into that sandy cavity, and I did not want to go in there. So now it's just time to shape the bottom and get ready to put our mortise in. Now, I think this oak has got a bit of age about it, and it's definitely been outside for a few years, so it was quite easy to cut, really, nice and soft, which makes a change. Alrighty, so on to sanding, and I started at 400 RPM with a 120 grit pad on the 5-inch disc sander, and with this one I went all the way up to 1500 grit because there's obviously clear epoxy in there, and I want as few lines as I possibly can. So on goes the sanding paste and the Howard feed and wax, and then the shine juice just to give it a nice luster. And I hope you'll agree that that is a pretty piece of wood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very pretty. So you can see where there's epoxy on the outside, but it's transparent and it just gives a nice shine. Alright, time to tidy up that mess where I was trying to find the centre and hollow this beast out. So it's obviously going to be a pretty chunky old thing when it's finished, as the rim on this is probably 1.5 inches wide, and I wasn't going to try and undercut it or do anything silly because it is what it is, folks. It's going to be a chunky old fruit bowl, but an interesting shape. So no prizes for thin bowls on this one. Yeah, I'm cleaning that camera off every time I stop. So I'm getting into the middle now, which is all obviously solid wood. I say solid wood, there's lumps of epoxy in there where the epoxy's filled all the cracks in the piece, and it was giving me issues jumping and skipping with the carbide and making a bit of a mess. It doesn't look too bad in the video, but trust me, that was not much fun with the carbide as it is there. Well, as you can see, I'm having a few issues with the carbide cutter. Now, a long time ago now, a very generous person in America who wants to remain nameless, I'm going to call you Bob, sent me some sharpening stones, diamond sharpening stones for sharpening my carbide. And this is really the only opportunity I've had to get them out and use them, because I cannot really cut that with my blunt carbide. So, I've never done this before. It says on the packet, do not use oil, use water, or use dry. So, I'm going to use water and see if we can put an edge back on that carbide. Cheers, Bob. So this is the coarse one. Let's see what it does. Well, straight away, it looks like it's cutting nicely. I'm going to turn the other way. And I think that's enough. Clean the stone off. And I'm going to do the same with the other two, and then we're going to do some cutting. Alright, job's a good one. Well, that went smoothly. Not too difficult a process at all, really. Now, maybe I've done it right, maybe I've done it wrong. I'm sure some of you in the comments will be able to tell me whether I did that right or wrong, and I would be interested to know, because I don't want to wear the stones out, or maybe I've done that already, who knows. Anyway, that is an awful lot better than it was before. You can hear from the sound and the fact that it's not jumping around all over the place, it's put an edge back on it. So thank you very much, Bob, for sending that to me. You've done me a favour there, so thanks very much. It's been so long since that thing was sharp, I'd actually forgotten what it was like to use it properly. So you might remember that I had to do 2 pours on the epoxy, and when shaping the top I didn't want to get into that second or that first pour or anywhere near it really, so I wanted to do a nice round over to hide the fact that the bowl is slightly off centre, and then just put a little scallop into the epoxy rim. So as ever, it's going to have a recurve in it. It curves in just about every direction possible, because that's what I like to do. Make it feel nice in the hands. So on to sanding, and we started at 240 grit on the epoxy at least, and I went all the way to 2000 on that front face, but I will be honest with you, there are a few scratches in it in the finished piece, and I'm not entirely happy with the finish, but I think the only thing I can really do is put it on the buffing wheel, but I actually need to modify my buffing wheel to do it, so you'll have to forgive a couple of scratches. So here we're up to probably about 1000 grit, looking at that, and now I'm putting on some T-cut. This is the metallic T-cut compound, which is used in automotive paint repair, and yeah, seemed to work quite nicely. So a bit of T-cut, a bit of sanding paste, a bit of Howard feed and wax, and of course an obscene amount of shine juice. And we're just about there, folks. See, that's why I put that rounded edge on. I love the way that epoxy refracts the light, so you can see that's probably an inch deep, that trench in there with all them stones in it, and it looks like the stones are right on the surface, and the angle that you can see them at is quite amazing really. So I'm quite pleased with how that turned out. Alrighty, well there she is, folks, in all her glory, and I will leave you as ever with the glamour shots, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, then give it a thumbs up and a like and all that good stuff, and if you're not a subscriber, you know what you're doing, hit the subscribe button. So nice one, thanks very much for watching the video, and I'll catch you on the next one, folks. Cheers.